How's it going today, guys? My name is Cameron. You're watching Killa Kam, and today we're going to be setting up a false bottom in a jungle type environment for some dart frogs. Let's get right into it. We're going to hop right into things, but starting by cleaning the inside of the glass. I showed you guys how to do this before in a previous video. Go check it out. Cool, we got the cage cleaned out. We're gonna go ahead and put the gravel substrate down here on the bottom. That will give us something for the water to leak into rather than staying in the soil. So I've got a little bit of aquarium gravel here. I've also got a really big bag of rocks. Both of these things I'm gonna use to create the false bottom. I'm gonna start with the rocks. The purpose of a false bottom, like I said, is to allow the water to pass through the soil so your soil doesn't become murky and swamp-like in a high humidity environment like it'll be for these dart frogs. We then want a barrier layer between the rocks and your actual dirt-like substrate. I'm going to be using an air conditioning filter. This stuff works fine. It's just pure cotton, no chemicals or anything like that. So this is what we'll use. Next, we're gonna add our topsoil. This stuff is good. No pesticides, no fertilizers, no perlite. This will be great for planting live plants in a dart frog enclosure. They'll grow really well on this stuff. We're gonna go ahead and give it probably 2 to 3 inches of this stuff. I've been saving up some of this shredded cork bark. I love this stuff. It helps make the soil a little bit lighter and not as heavy and clunky. This will be really nice for the dart frog enclosure. Mix this stuff in really well. We're gonna start the hardscape now. I've got this piece of wood that I really like. I believe it's Mopani wood by Zoomed. Good stuff here. There's some really good pit marks in here on this wood. And it's just gonna bring this cage to life as an actual jungle. One thing I do know is I wanna slant the dirt kind of towards the back, and this will help give this small tank some depth. So I'm thinking that I know I want this piece going like so in here. And then I believe for the rock, we're gonna just kind of set it right here, right next to it. And that's the hardscape. Pretty simplistic, but when all the plants are nice and around it, oh, it's gonna pop so well. Planting, which is probably the most fun part. I've got some golden moss here, some dragon's tongue here, mini Adam ivy, and some pink angel. I'm thinking the dominant plant that I want to use here is gonna be this golden moss. I don't want to break the root base off of it because we don't want any of that dirt. Once you get yourself a little mini frag like this, with golden moss, you can just shove it right in the gaps of this wood and it'll start growing on the wood. We're gonna take a break from the golden moss for just a second and get some of this dragon's tongue in there. We're gonna place them around the base of the tree. We're gonna take some of this mini Adam ivy as well, start planting it down the back behind the tree so that when it starts growing, it'll come up and drop right over the top, which is going to be such a cool effect to have in a mini jungle like this. Then we're going to get the pink angel and we're going to bust it open, get it in the system, because this is such a beautiful plant with bright green leaves, pink veins. It's nice fuzzy in appearance as well. We're gonna make this some of the focal points of the cage. Stick it right here in front of this rock. And I think we're also going to stick a little bit of it right here in front of the log as well. All right, we're going to go ahead, scape the rest of this tank, and we'll come back once we've got it fully planted for you guys. Alrighty, so the plants are in. Dart frog enclosures are usually known for being pretty heavily planted. I would even say mine's probably on the lighter side of things. Again, when we get a light in here, you'll be able to see it a lot better. I'm now going to dip into my moss cultivation and see what kinds of moss I want to add in to the cage. Alright, cool. We've got our moss and a big mess on our hands. We are going to add some of this aquarium gravel for some decorative touches in here. I lied. I'm going to break open my springtail culture to add a cleanup crew to the dart frog enclosure. Once this dart frog enclosure takes off, it will literally be able to sustain itself. So we're just going to sprinkle this stuff all over the place. I'm going to add this water bowl into the enclosure. I'm never going to fill it up all the way because dart frogs aren't known to be the best swimmers, but for me spritzing the cage down, there will end up being a little bit of standing water in here, which is what we want. Now that we have all of the necessities that a dart frog enclosure needs, we're going to add the final touches to the cage. I'm going to add some cypress mulch in here. This will give the cleanup crew something to munch on besides the frog poop. I'm going to add a couple of leaves in here as well. I've got some big boys, magnolia leaves. I've got some banana tree leaves. And I've also just got some pothos. We're just going to add it all in here. With these magnolia leaves, you can just set them in here like this if you want, but it kind of throws off the appearance of the jungle when you have, kind of super big leaves but not a huge tree in here. So I'm going to break mine up and then just kind of sprinkle it around the place. I'm going to use this magnolia leaf to kind of dip into the water bowl so that if the frogs do get in there, they also have a way to get out. I've then got the banana leaves, and what I like to do is I like to take in a couple of them, ripping them in half. God, these buggers are tough. Ugh. And last thing I'm going to add is some of the black aquarium gravel. I really like black aquarium gravel as accents for cages. If you just sprinkle it around, it gives nice pops of, or it makes the greenery in your cage pop a little bit more. Once you have everything in your enclosure, you then want to mist it down very, very, very heavily. After you give it a good misting, I like to take a paper towel and wipe down this front glass so that way none of the hard water spots stay on the glass. As many of you know, the Reptile Expo was this weekend on Sunday. I went and had full intentions of buying a dart frog, and then I started talking with the breeder that was there, and he asked me a question: how long have you had your tank set up? And I said, well, I've had it set up for about 3 or 4 days now. He said, hold off. He said, I want your business, but I want your dart frogs to have the best success as well. He said it's best to have about a month going in your tank before you add your dart frogs. This is my tank 5 days later from me first setting it up. The plants are starting to fill in nicely here, and the leaves are starting to break down. What he was meaning by let my tank sit for a month is that springtails, the cleanup crew that I added, we want to make sure that there's enough of those in here to clean up after the frogs and also to give the frogs an occasional snack. You can see those little white things in the water dish. Those are springtails. That means they're starting to breed, which is a good sign. which means I might be able to add some dart frogs here in a couple of weeks. He also wanted to make sure that I had a good flightless fruit fly culture going before I brought home dart frogs, because that's the main thing that they eat as well. So that's something I'm gonna have to set up here in the next week or so that when I do get some dart frogs, those will be ready to go. So I know how cool it would have been to see some dart frogs in this enclosure at the end of this video, but I hope you guys understand that it just wasn't the right move for me to shove dart frogs in here with only having the tank set up for a couple of days. I am going to go ahead and start the fruit fly culture later this week, and I'm going to keep misting these plants so they can grow out bigger and better and give the dart frogs more places to hide. Even though I didn't get dart frogs, if you guys like this video, go ahead, slap that like button. You know I need those kinds of things. And as always, stay tuned for Thursday's video. Thank you.